I just finished fixing the tap on the yacht. Yes, the yacht? Do keep up. When my darling son-in-law decided to remind me that plumbers apparently have no place here. Charming, isn't he? Nothing like a grown man who moisturizes more than a dolphin sneering at someone who can actually fix something. He looked at me as if I were some tragic pensioner playing dress-up with a rented boat. And then, just for the sheer sport of it, he called me pathetic. So, naturally, I looked him dead in the eye and said, "This is my yacht." Oh, the silence that followed. Priceless. If looks could kill, I'd be bobbing face down in the marina with the crabs by now. But no, instead I got the twitch of his jaw. The momentary panic of a man realizing his father-in-law may have more money than his precious stock portfolio. Delicious. Now, before I tell you what happened next, and trust me, it gets worse, do the whole subscribe thing, leave a comment about where you're listening from, all that nonsense. If I can survive this family day out, the least you can do is humor me with a click. Anyway, the brass fittings of the yacht caught the afternoon sun like scattered coins, which, frankly, is the closest Derek will ever get to seeing actual money that isn't his wife's inheritance. I stood near the railing of the Serenity. Yes, that's the yacht's name. Subtle, I know. Nothing screams inner peace, like inviting your entire ungrateful family aboard to judge you. The Newport Marina stretched out before us, all mass and sea breeze, and a faint stench of entitlement. 2 months of meticulous planning had led to this very moment. 2 months of imagining smiles, gratitude, perhaps even affection. Silly me. Derek stepped aboard first, his designer loafers clicking against the teak deck like he'd just bought the place. His eyes scanned the polished chrome, the leather seating, the navigation equipment gleaming in the pilot house, and his jaw dropped. For half a second, the smug mask slipped. Then it snapped back on like Botox. "Well, well," he said, stroking the butter-soft leather like a man on an awkward first date. "How the hell did you afford this floating palace?" Ronald, not Dad, not even Ron. Ronald, always Ronald, spat out like a hair in his soup. Honestly, if the man could legally adopt me out of the family, I think he'd have the papers signed by tea time. Lindsay followed him aboard, clutching her designer handbag, as though someone might mistake it for a normal one. She looked around nervously, cheeks pink, and muttered, "Dad, please tell me you didn't blow your entire retirement savings on this." Oh, the faith, the belief. Nothing like raising a daughter who assumes you've sold a kidney for a midlife crisis. Meanwhile, Sarah, bless her, still clinging to the last shreds of civility in this family circus, smiled politely. "It's beautiful, Mr. Parker." Her husband, William, nodded, which in his world is basically a sonnet. "Thank you for inviting us." Ah, William, the sort of man who'd thank a burglar for not breaking the good vase. Derek, naturally, had no time for gratitude. He was already pawing at the control panel, like he was about to take it for a joyride. This navigation system alone costs more than most people make in a year. Yes, Derek, I thought, but most people also know how to change a light bulb without calling an electrician. Then came the laugh. That cold, empty laugh that makes you want to check if he's got a mirror handy. Jesus, Ronald. Playing yacht club at your age? What were you thinking? What was I thinking? Oh, just that maybe my family might, I don't know, enjoy themselves? Have a bit of bonding time? Silly old me, always confusing shared happiness with public humiliation. I thought it would be nice for the family to spend some time together. I managed, my voice steadier than the storm inside me. Time together on what? Your midlife crisis. Derek barked, opening storage compartments like he was conducting a house inspection. Embarrassing, apparently. He found it all embarrassing. My chest tightened. Years of work, sacrifice, careful investment. And here I was, the punchline in my son-in-law's stand-up routine. Lindsay tried to hush him. Derek, maybe, but oh no. He was on a roll, arms crossed, head tilted, looking at me like a case study in financial dementia. Your father's clearly made some questionable decisions. We should probably have a family meeting about managing his assets before he loses everything. Managing my assets. Imagine, The man who once Googled how to cook pasta, now offering financial stewardship of my estate. The audacity was so thick you could butter toast with it. I bit down on the lie. The rental company assured me everything was in order. I said, the words tasting like acid. Rental? Derek's eyebrows shot up. So far, I thought they'd fly off into the rigging. Well, that's slightly less insane. Still ridiculous, though, for someone living on Social Security. Social Security. The man really believed that because I wear khakis and drive a sensible car, I must be counting pennies and coupons. If only he knew. 3 companies built from scratch. Sold for figures his moisturized brain couldn't process. And yet, because I don't swan about in gold-plated loafers, I'm apparently destitute. So yes, I suggested they explore below deck while I made refreshments, mostly to stop myself from throwing Derek overboard. And as they disappeared below, his running commentary echoing up through the hatch, marble countertops. Unbelievable. Your dad's completely lost it. I stood on deck gripping the brass railing until my knuckles went white. The waves lapped gently, but all I could hear was my daughter's nervous laughter and her voice. He must have spent a fortune on this rental. It's so unlike him. Unlike me. That one hurt. Imagine being so unknown to your own daughter that she can't picture you buy yourself something nice without assuming you've lost your mind. The sun burned too bright, the breeze too cold, and suddenly I wasn't sure if this whole thing had been a mistake. But no, I planned this. Perfectly. They just didn't get it yet. I touched the brass compass near the pilot house, its polished face catching the light. And I remembered another moment 2 months ago when I touched it for the first time and felt nothing but joy. It was March 22nd. I stood in the showroom at Maritime Luxury Yachts in my best Navy suit, the one I only wear for funerals and foolish optimism. Trevor, the salesman, all teeth and Rolex, was explaining the Serenity's master cabin to me for the 3rd time that week. And I, Ronald, the tragic pensioner, was about to buy a yacht. The guest cabin has twin bunks that convert to a double. Trevor chirped, like he was flogging me an IKEA sofa rather than a yacht worth more than Derek's self-esteem. Perfect for family trips. I nodded, already imagining Derek and Lindsay's faces when they discovered they had their own private quarters. Derek would no doubt complain about thread count, while Lindsay would quietly die inside, trying not to look impressed. The yacht stretched 42 feet of pristine fiberglass and chrome, gleaming under the showroom lights like a siren whispering, "You'll regret this purchase in 6 months." I ran my hand along the brass compass, the same one that would later double as my emotional support object, and thought about teaching future grandchildren to navigate by the stars. Because nothing says bonding like stranding your family in the Atlantic with no Wi-Fi. And you're certain about the financing terms? I asked, purely for theater. The $2.8 million check was already folded in my jacket pocket, drawn from an account Derek couldn't even imagine, unless imagination for him extends beyond brunch reservations. Absolutely, Mr. Parker. Full payment today means immediate delivery. Trevor smiled with the confidence of a man who definitely rehearses in the mirror. Your family is going to love the surprise. My family. Yes, the very people who couldn't even say thank you for Sunday roast without criticizing the potatoes. Still, I've been planning this since Lindsay's birthday, when she said she missed our old fishing trips. She looked exhausted from Derek's daily financial whinging. I wish we could just escape on a boat somewhere, she'd sighed. And there it was, my mission, a floating sanctuary, far away from Derek's constant need to belittle anything that moves. I even researched family-friendly routes along the New England coast, imagining weekends where Lindsay could rediscover her love of the water. And me, I imagined a trip without Derek. Tragically, international law doesn't allow me to leave him tied to a buoy. I'd like to add some personal touches, I told Trevor. Family photos, a sound system, dinners with music. Of course, he nodded, already calculating how many zeros he could add to the invoice. I signed the papers with a steady hand, every stroke of ink a silent scream of what the hell am I doing? But it wasn't just a purchase. It was an investment in healing, paid for with Margaret's life insurance, Money I'd save for something meaningful. And what could be more meaningful than saving my daughter from her own husband? Trevor handed me the keys. 2 tiny pieces of metal worth $2.8 million and several future ulcers. Taking possession today? He asked. Next month, I said. I'll surprise them by presenting it as a rental first, then reveal the truth. Ah, the strategy of a genius. Let them fall in love with it before dropping the bombshell. Imagine Lindsay's tears of joy, her gratitude, maybe even Derek's grudging respect, or at least a temporary silence. Back then, in the showroom, I'd felt more hopeful than I had in years. Trevor had shaken my hand and said, "Your daughter is going to be so proud." Yes, proud. I clung to that word like a drunk clings to the last gin and tonic. Fast forward to the present. The harbor stretched before me, exactly the same, but I wasn't. 2 months of hope was curdling into something harder. The generous father of March had been mugged by reality and was now learning a valuable lesson in gratitude, namely, don't expect any. Footsteps on the deck pulled me back. My family reappeared, faces glowing with, well, contempt in Derek's case, mild amusement in Lindsay's, and something resembling humanity in the others. "Ronald, this is absolutely magnificent," William said, trailing his hands along the polished rail with genuine awe. Finally, a voice not dipped in acid. His words felt like cool water on a burn. Sarah followed, silver hair catching the light, eyes sparkling. The woodwork below is stunning. That mahogany dining table, it's museum quality. Bless them, proof that at least someone's soul hadn't been sold to cynicism. And then Derek, stomping in behind them like an unwanted sequel. Yeah, well, when you're spending someone else's money on a rental, might as well go big, right? There it was. The bile, freshly served. He gestured around at the yacht's gleaming surfaces, as if he owned shares in bitterness. Dad probably spent more on this weekend than Ronald makes in 6 months. The words landed like a slap. William stiffened. Sarah's smile faltered. Lindsay gave her trademark nervous laugh, the same one she uses when Derek insults the waiter. Derek, William said, low and warning, but Derek was already running his fingers along the chrome, appraising it like a second-hand car dealer. I mean, look at this sound system. He jabbed buttons like a toddler on Red Bull. Top of the line. The rental company must charge extra for every feature. What's this costing you, Ronald? $2,000 for the weekend? 3. My jaw clenched so tightly I could have cracked walnuts. 3,000 wouldn't even cover the dock fees. But why ruin his fantasy? It's beautiful, Dad, Lindsay said, though her voice carried that familiar cocktail of worry and embarrassment. Ah, yes, the daughterly tone of please don't ruin Christmas, Dad. Though maybe next time we could do something more practical. Practical? Yes, why not? Miniature golf. A chain restaurant. Something appropriately low rent for the family embarrassment. Shall we head below for lunch? I said, my voice steady, though my chest was about to implode. Lunch on a yacht? Derek clapped his hands like a pantomime villain. Living the dream, Ronald. Shame it's just for a weekend. And with that, I led them below deck, William frowning. Sarah quietly absorbing, Lindsay nervously fiddling, and Derek already composing his next insult. The mahogany table gleamed under the lights. A table worthy of a royal banquet. Instead, it would host my family, which, frankly, was tragedy enough. The setting was perfect. Bone china, crystal glasses, silver utensils, the kind of arrangement you'd expect at Downton Abbey. Not a family gathering destined to implode. I planned every detail, every fork angle, every wine glass placement, because nothing says please love me like cutlery precision. Oh, my, Sarah breathed, looking at the table as though I'd laid out the crown jewels. Ronald, this is lovely. You've gone to such trouble. No trouble at all, I replied, pulling out chairs with all the gallantry of a man seconds away from homicide. Sarah sat gracefully. Lindsay perched nervously, like the chair might explode as she relaxed. Derek naturally didn't sit. He was too busy circling the built-in bar, like a shark that's just scented blood. Fully stocked too, he sneered, lifting a bottle of aged scotch. He checked the label the way a burglar checks jewelry. This bottle alone probably costs more than most people's car payments. Derek, William warned, voice firmer now. What? I'm just appreciating the finer things in life. Derek said, grin sharp enough to slice through the salmon. Not everyone gets to play millionaire for a weekend. Ah, yes. The words hung in the air like cheap cigar smoke. Sarah fiddled with her napkin. William stared at his son, as if hoping telepathy might work after 60 years of failure. Lindsay flushed pink, stuck between offending her husband and apologizing for him. A full-time job at this point. I served a meal with the mechanical precision of a condemned man preparing his own last supper. Grilled salmon, roasted vegetables, crisp white wine. Every plate placed just so, while my head replayed the naive fantasies I'd had back in Trevor's showroom. That idiotic hope that this floating palace would heal us. What a fool. This is delicious, William offered, desperate to patch the cracks with a polite compliment. Dad always was a good cook, Lindsay added softly, trying for kindness. And then Derek, because God forbid he let kindness linger in the room for more than 3 seconds, dropped in. Yeah, well, when you've got all day and nothing else to do. He stabbed at his salmon with the grace of a prison inmate. Retirement must be nice. No responsibilities. No pressure to provide for anyone. The fork trembled in my hand. No pressure to provide. 30 years of grinding. 3 companies built from dust, well, if carefully nurtured, and apparently it all counted for nothing. I wasn't provider. Just a pensioner playing dress-up with a rented boat. Derek. William's voice was tight, warning. Perhaps what, Dad? Derek looked up, eyes glinting with challenge. I'm just making conversation. Isn't that what family dinners are for? The silence stretched thin as piano wire. Sarah's fingers shook around her wine glass. Lindsay stared at her plate, no doubt praying for spontaneous combustion. William's jaw twitched. A father realizing his son had officially graduated from annoying to intolerable. And there I was, at the head of a $2.8 million mahogany table, serving salmon to people who'd sooner spit in my face than thank me. Something cold began crystallizing in my chest. Something harder than hope. Then Derek raised his glass. A mock toast. To family adventures we can't afford. The clink of his glass against the table was the sound of civility finally snapping. William set down his fork with surgical precision. Sarah's hand trembled as she reached for water. That's enough. My voice cut through the air like a blade through silk. Calm. Controlled. Deadly. Derek's eyebrows shot up in exaggerated surprise. Behavior? I'm just being honest. Someone in this family has to acknowledge reality. The reality, I said, each word deliberate, is that you are a guest on this yacht. You will show appropriate respect, or you will leave. Lindsay gasped. She'd never heard me talk to Derek that way. Neither had Derek, judging by the split-second falter in his smirk. Then it snapped back on like cheap cologne. Guest, he scoffed. Come on, Ronald. We're family. I can't express concern about your financial decisions. Your concern, I replied, setting down my utensils with surgical neatness, sounds remarkably like mockery. William cleared his throat. Son, perhaps we should what? Derek's voice rose, cracking just enough to reveal the insecurity beneath. Pretend Ronald isn't making ridiculous choices. Pretend this rental isn't beyond his means. He gestured around the cabin like a mad auctioneer. Look at this. The rental fees alone could fund his groceries for months. Ah, yes. Nothing like reducing your father-in-law to Tesco meal deals in front of the family. The calculation in his eyes was naked now, measuring me, weighing me, and finding me wanting. He leaned back, arms crossed, a portrait of smug superiority. I built a successful IT consultancy from nothing, he bragged, puffing out his chest like a self-help guru. I understand money. I understand value. And this... He waved at the china and crystal. This is just someone trying to play in a league where he doesn't belong. Sarah's face had gone pale. William's knuckles were white on his napkin. Even they could see he'd stepped over a line. But then Lindsay, my daughter, my own flesh and blood, She nodded, just slightly, barely there. But I caught it. Agreement. That tiny motion was the sharpest knife of all. After everything, she saw me through Derek's eyes. A pathetic old man pretending at wealth. The betrayal hurt worse than Derek's insults ever could. I said, voice low, cold, final, you should excuse yourself from this table. Derek laughed, sharp, brittle, breaking glass laughter. Excuse myself from a rented yacht? He shoved his chair back, scraping the floor like nails on a chalkboard. Maybe I will. Suddenly feels a bit stifling in here. He headed toward the stairs, pausing at the threshold to land one last poison dart. Don't worry about the cleanup, Ronald. I'm sure the rental company has staff for that. Wouldn't want you straining yourself. His footsteps echoed overhead, deliberately heavy, like he was trying to claim ownership with every thud. The salon fell silent, just the creak of the yacht. And me, sitting in the ruins of my perfect dinner, surrounded by family, lonelier than ever. The yacht groaned gently against its moorings, which was more than could be said for my family's grip on basic civility. William spoke first, his voice thick with embarrassment. Ronald, I apologize. That was completely unacceptable. Inexcusable, Sarah added, eyes glassy with unshed tears, like she just witnessed Derek kick a puppy rather than humiliate me at my own dinner table. Lindsay, meanwhile, stared at her untouched salmon as though it held the solution to climate change. When she finally looked up, her expression was pure defensiveness. He's just protective of family finances, she said quietly. Oh yes, of course. Protective. Derek humiliates me in front of everyone. But apparently he's really just Captain Spreadsheet, bravely guarding the sacred budget. We've been talking about buying a house, Lindsay continued, voice small, and money is tight, and seeing this, she gestured vaguely around the cabin. It's hard to understand priorities. The priorities. My priority had been repairing the gaping chasm between us. Her priority was keeping Derek's fragile ego wrapped in cotton wool. I stood slowly, gathering plates with the composure of a saint, or possibly a man seconds away from a nervous breakdown. Of course, I understand completely. And I did understand, more than she realized. I understood that love alone doesn't patch contempt, that respect can't be bribed with salmon, and that Derek had just made the gravest mistake of his life. From above came the sound of cabinets opening and closing. Derek, rummaging about like a raccoon at a campsite. The irony? He thought he was poking around a rental. If only he knew. I'll just tidy up, I said, stacking plates with mechanical precision. Why don't you all enjoy the afternoon air on deck? They filed out obediently, leaving me alone with the wreckage of my grand gesture. For one crystalline second, I allowed myself pure rage, sharp, electric, glorious. Then it passed, replaced by cold calculation. Derek wanted to play games with me. Poor fool. His footsteps echoed above, heavy and deliberate, each thud screaming petulant toddler throwing a tantrum. That look in his eyes, I thought, remembering boardrooms where lesser men realized they'd been outmaneuvered. Except Derek lacked the subtlety of a boardroom adversary. He was more sledgehammer than scalpel. I should probably check on him, Lindsay said softly, half rising. Let him cool off, William replied, every syllable soaked in paternal disappointment. He needs time to think about his behavior. Yes, because Derek is famously reflective, probably journaling upstairs as we speak. Dear Diary, today I acted like an absolute tit, but it's fine because I'm protecting the family finances. Sarah reached across the table, her hand warm on mine. Ronald, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's gotten into him. I did. He couldn't tolerate being corrected, especially not in front of Mummy and Daddy. Men like Derek don't learn boundaries. They test them until everyone else collapses in exhaustion. Above us, a door opened, closed. The guest head, perhaps, or maybe the engine room. Because why wouldn't Derek poke his entitled nose where it absolutely doesn't belong? He's under a lot of pressure at work, Lindsay murmured. The consulting business is competitive. William's expression said what I was thinking. And this justifies acting like a prat how exactly? Then the metallic sound. A faint grinding noise. Not idle rummaging. Something else. Something deliberate. I froze mid-motion, crystal glasses in hand. Dad. Lindsay's voice sounded far away. Are you all right? Fine. I lied automatically, though every nerve screamed otherwise. The grinding stopped. A cabinet door clicked shut. Footsteps resumed. Moments later, Derek descended the stairs, perfectly composed, looking smugger than a cat who'd just eaten the neighbor's canary. Sorry about that, he said smoothly, sliding back into his chair. Just needed a moment to appreciate the craftsmanship. This really is an impressive boat. Warning sirens blared in my head. Derek didn't apologize. Derek didn't compliment. And Derek certainly didn't look relaxed unless he'd just found a new way to be insufferable. Feeling better? William asked cautiously. Much. Derek sipped his water with the kind of satisfaction that suggested he'd just moved all the chess pieces while the rest of us were still setting up the board. Actually, he added casually, I was thinking maybe I should help with the cleanup. Least I can do after, well, you know. The false humility act. Classic Derek. That's sweet of you, honey, Lindsay said instantly, her face brightening as though he just pledged world peace. But I watched him closely, the way his eyes avoided mine. The tiny twitch of his mouth, not remorse but private triumph. I could wash up in a galley, he continued smoothly. Get familiar with the boat systems. Might be useful if we run into any problems. Problems. The word hung in the air like secondhand smoke. Sarah clasped her hands, beaming. That's very thoughtful. Very thoughtful indeed. Derek volunteering for chores was like Satan offering to babysit the choir boys. Suspicious at best, catastrophic at worst. I stood, instinct screaming. Why don't we all move to the deck first? The dishes can wait. Oh, come on, Ronald. Derek's smile was polished chrome, all surface, no substance. Let me make up for being such an ass earlier. I insist. And just like that, he was already striding toward the galley, smug as a cat burglar, while I followed, dread pooling in my chest, because I had a horrible certainty about what those metallic sounds had been. And Derek wasn't about to wash any dishes. See, Derek called from the galley, voice unnaturally chipper, the exact tone people use when they've either just committed a crime or are trying to sell you a timeshare. Then came it. Oh, not a normal, oh. Either this was a kind of, oh, that drops like a brick into your stomach. Oh, what? Lindsay asked, moving towards him like an eager Labrador. I was already walking past her, dread pooling in my gut, and there he was, Derek, standing by the galley sink, hand frozen on the faucet handle. Water gushing the tap like Niagara on discount day. Seems to be stuck, he said, tugging dramatically at the handle. Won't turn off. Must be one of those quirky old boat problems. Quirky old boat problems. Yes, of course. The yacht equivalent of a squeaky floorboard. Perfectly natural. Apart from the fresh gouges scratched into the chrome, which hadn't been there this morning when I'd made coffee. Gouges deep enough to suggest Derek had attacked the poor faucet with pliers. Because why stop at ruining dinner when you can ruin plumbing too? Let me take a look, I said quietly, moving him aside before he decided to wrestle the fridge next. The handle ground under my grip, stiff as rusted iron. Not wear and tear. Not careless use. This was deliberate. Destruction cosplaying as an accident. Probably just needs WD-40, Derek suggested brightly, as though lubrication was a cure-all for acts of sabotage. I knelt, running my fingers over the gouges. Yes, pliers. Not metaphorical ones either. Actual tool marks. Dad, can you fix it? Lindsay asked, voice tinged with real concern, though still not enough to consider maybe, just maybe, her husband was a human crowbar. It's broken, I said flatly. The valve's damaged. Derek nodded sympathetically, as though sharing in my pain. Rental equipment, you know, probably treated rough by previous guests. Ah, yes, those mysterious previous guests, always conveniently available to shoulder blame. How noble of them, damaging this yacht. I bought brand new. Good thing it happened now, Derek added with a smirk. Imagine if it burst at night. His casual tone dripped with the sort of satisfaction only found in Bond villains and toddlers who just drawn on the walls with permanent marker. William leaned in, studying the faucet. His business-like, I didn't miss a thing. Odd. This looks almost deliberate. Derek's smile didn't twitch. Salt air is murder on fittings. Probably corrosion. Been going for months. But William wasn't convinced. Engineer's brain ticking over. No, those look like tool marks. Previous repair attempts. Derek cutting quickly. Smooth. Too smooth. You know how it is. Someone tries to fix it, makes it worse. The lie rolled off his tongue, so easily I almost applauded. Almost. I'll check the maintenance manual, I said instead, masking the rage boiling in my chest. What I really meant was, I'll check the security footage. High definition, time-stamped, and very much ready to catch him red-handed. Wanting to help look? Derek offered. I'm good with technical stuff. Of course you are, darling. About as good as a fox is with henhouse security. No need, I replied, forcing a smile sharp enough to cut glass. He shrugged, all disappointed helpfulness. Whatever you think, just trying to pitch in. Yes, pitch in like a saboteur with a side hobby in gaslighting. The others drifted back toward the deck, but Derek lingered, fiddling with the tap, checking it was off. Not really checking, though. Admiring. His expression had the smug glow of a vandal admiring graffiti. Funny how these things happen, he said lightly. 1 minute everything's fine, the next repair bill. Translation, this is just the beginning, Ronald. And I believed him. I waited until their voices floated down from above deck. Then I slipped quietly into the navigation room, shutting the door with a soft click. The screens flickered on, flooding the space with harsh blue-white light. 8 camera feeds. Every angle of my yacht recorded in unforgiving detail. Derek thought he was playing games. Sweet boy. He had no idea I'd been playing professionally long before he learned to tie his bloody shoes. I rewound to 3:50 p.m. camera 3, galley and guest head. And there he was, strolling in, casual as a man browsing supermarket wine. At first, just opening cabinets, poking about like the entitled prat he was. But then the real show began. Then Derek approached the faucet. I leaned closer to the monitor, like a pensioner at a slot machine, praying for a jackpot of proof. And no, jackpot indeed. He tested the handle. Gentle, normal, perfectly functional. Water on, water off. Flawless. No problem at all. Which, of course, begged the question, what could possibly possess a grown man to ruin something that was already working? Spoiler, it's Derek. He looked around, making sure no one was watching, apart from, the 8 high-definition cameras recording his every twitch. Then he braced himself like he was auditioning for Strongman of the Year and wrenched the poor faucet like it had personally insulted his mother. The camera even shook from the force. Subtle, right? Timestamp. 15 hours, 52 minutes, and 41 seconds. Crime of the century. Breaking plumbing like a toddler throwing a tantrum at IKEA. Then, oh, bless him, he went back for round 2, this time using his foot for leverage. Because nothing screams innocent accident, like looking as if you're wrestling an octopus in your in-law's kitchen. And when it finally snapped, Derek smiled. Not just any smile, either. That greasy little smirk you only see on people who parked in a disabled bay just for 5 minutes. But he wasn't done. Oh no, our Derek fancies himself a criminal mastermind. Camera for caught him rifling through drawers, finding a dish towel, and carefully wiping away any evidence. CSI, Idiot Edition. He even ran his finger along the base to double-check. I half expected him to wear gloves and leave behind a calling card. The faucet phantom strikes again. Methodical. Cold. Petty. Honestly, if he applied this much effort to his career, I might have got my 60 grand back. By 15 hours, 54 minutes, and 12 seconds, he stepped back, admiring his handiwork like Michelangelo at the Sistine Chapel. Except instead of divine art, it was a faucet pissing water like an incontinent Labrador. I copied the footage to a drive. Physical proof, weighty in the pocket, like the universe had handed me the receipts. Meanwhile, from upstairs floated Derek's voice, dripping in fake concern. I hope Ronald isn't having too much trouble with that boat problem. These old rentals can be tricky. Rentals. He said like I'd borrowed a dinghy from Gumtree. The irony? Delicious. If I weren't so incandescent with rage, I'd have applauded the sheer gall. Drive in pocket. I stood there in the dark, listening to the water lapping at the hull. 40 years in business had taught me one thing. Evidence is nothing without strategy. Derek had handed me the bullets. Now I just had to choose when to fire. I grabbed the toolkit. Precision wrench set. Pipe sealant. My hands knew what to do. My brain was too busy replaying 10 years of Derek-shaped generosity. Graduate school tuition? 40 grand. Wedding? 25. House down payment? 60. And let's not forget the little things. Cars, bills, appliances. The greatest hits of financial bleeding. Each memory twisted inside me like that mangled faucet thread. Because here I was, again, fixing something he'd broken. Only this time, it wasn't just a tap. It was the very last nerve I had. And then, right on cue, Derek's voice again, louder this time. Should we go check on Ronald? He's been down there quite a while. Oh yes, Derek. Do pop down. Nothing says helpful son-in-law, like sabotage your host, and then hovering about like Florence Nightingale with a wrench fetish. More complicated? Darling. Everything was more complicated. The yacht they thought I'd rented. The wealth they assumed I didn't have. The man they believed was some bumbling pensioner grateful just to be invited to his own table. Meanwhile, I'm there threading new gaskets with the precision of a man defusing a bomb, while every vein in my body screamed, "You've been financing these ingrates like a bloody charity case." Nearly $140,000. That's not helping the kids get started. That's a hostile corporate takeover. And then, like the dramatic villain he is, Derek's footsteps approached. I'm going to see if he needs a hand. Oh yes, Derek. Come down and help. What will it be this time, mate? A crowbar through the oven door. Chainsaw the mast for a laugh? Click. The faucet slid back together and, miracle of miracles, worked better than before. Stronger, tighter, smoother. Because sometimes, Derek, damage makes things tougher. A concept you'll never understand, since the only thing you've ever built is an ego large enough to block out the sun. Everything okay down there? He called, with that oh-so-helpful tone that makes you want to throw him overboard with a smile. I stood slowly, wiped my hands on a rag, and thought, this man actually believes he's won. He's broken a faucet, and therefore humiliated me. That's it. That's the big plan. Sabotage plumbing, the Derek edition. But the poor sod had no idea he'd just declared war on someone who once negotiated a $3 million deal while his appendix was actively exploding. Information wins battles, and I had enough footage to bury him under his own smug grin. Back on deck, Derek leaned in his chair, arms folded, smugger than a cat that's just learned how to order caviar on Deliveroo. We were starting to worry. How'd the repair go? Old equipment giving you fits, Ronald? He spun the tale. Dodgy rentals, cheap maintenance. Poor Ronald out his depth. The performance was Oscar-worthy, and the Oscars handed out statues for most punchable face. So, I set my tablet on the table. Calm. Precise. Like a man laying out cutlery before a very messy meal. Actually, Derek, I'd like to ask you something about that faucet. His eyebrows shot up in who, me? I'm but a humble plumber's apprentice mode. I'm no plumber, Ronald. Just thought it looked corroded when I washed my hands. Bless him. The speed of that lie could have won medals. Lindsay, of course, jumped in to defend him, because apparently my daughter's hobby is gaslighting her own father. Dad, Derek was just trying to help. Yes, darling. If by help, you mean snapping things in half like a toddler with a glow stick. So I looked him straight in the eye. Calm. Even. Surgical. Derek, why did you deliberately break the faucet? Silence. A glorious silence. His laugh came a second too late, a decibel too loud. Like a man realizing police will check the boot of his car. Break it? Ronald, what are you talking about? Lindsay gasped. William shifted uncomfortably. And me? I reached for the tablet and pressed power. because I've got some footage that might interest everyone. Derek's face drained faster than the faulty faucet he'd murdered. Footage? What footage? The yacht security system. 8 cameras. High definition. Audio. Very thorough coverage. And there it was. The wobble. That tiny throat swallow. Adam's apple bobbing like a buoy in rough seas. He tried to recover. Oh, he did. Well then, you'll see exactly what I told you. Just used the bathroom. Noticed a problem. Came back up. Yes, Derek. We'll see. And by see, I mean we'll all watch your little sabotage session in 4K. Surround sound. Probably good enough for Netflix to commission a true crime special. William leaned forward, sharp. He knew what was coming. Sarah fluttered about, desperate to smooth things over. But I just scrolled to 1550, tapped play, and sat back. There was Derek, strolling into frame. Casual, confident, the very picture of innocence. There you are, I said conversationally. Saturday, May 17th, 3:50 p.m., just after you left our table. Derek's jaw tightened. His eyes flickered. But his mouth? Oh! His mouth kept performing. So you can see, just using facilities. The video showed water flowing perfectly. Faucet working like a dream. Interesting, I said. Seems to function normally. Lindsay squinted, baffled. I don't understand. What are we supposed to be seeing? Keep watching, I smiled. The interesting part is coming up. And Derek, oh Derek, finally realized what he'd forgotten. That smug little smirk of his was about to star in a feature-length presentation. How to Destroy Your Marriage in One Easy Step. Directed by Ronald Parker. Timestamp, 1552. My voice calm, collected, the scalpel before the cut. Watch carefully. 8 cameras worth of evidence, about to turn Derek's smug little empire of lies into rubble. On the screen, Derek checked the door like a teenager about to nick biscuits from the tin. Satisfied no one was watching, his entire posture changed, like Clark Kent becoming Superman, if Superman's superpower was petty vandalism. Oh my God, Sarah whispered as Derek gripped the faucet with both hands and yanked it like he was auditioning for World's Strongest Idiot. The audio was crystal clear. The tortured squeal of metal, the crunch of parts snapping, and yes, his little grunt of satisfaction, like he'd just bested a wild animal, when in fact it was a sink. Derek! William barked, scandalized, as though yelling at a video recording would somehow change the outcome. Spoiler, it didn't, but Derek wasn't finished. No! He braced a foot against the cabinet like this was an Olympic event and cranked until water burst forth in glorious chaos. I half expected the Titanic theme to start playing. Lindsay gasped into her hands. Oh, not Derek. Surely not Derek. Sweetheart, if you're shocked your husband can destroy things out of spite, I'd like to introduce you to, well, your husband. There he was on screen, smug as a fox in a henhouse, casually wiping away the evidence with a dish towel. That's right, he brought cleaning supplies. Honestly, the man plans sabotage better than he plans family holidays. The timestamp shows 1554, I said dryly. That's 4 minutes of artistic destruction. Bravo. Derek's face had gone whiter than a gluten-free scone. There's an explanation. Yes, I said. It's called You Broke My Bloody Faucet. William, bless him, leaned in with that disappointed dad tone. The footage shows it working perfectly until you touched it. Translation, you're cooked, son. Lindsay's voice cracked. Derek, how could you? Dad's going to have to pay for this rental damage. Ah, yes, the irony. My daughter rushing to defend my finances, when in reality, she might as well have been telling the owner of Buckingham Palace not to worry about the roof repairs. Derek's defense unraveled like a pound land jumper. It's not what it looks like. I panicked. You panicked. William shot back, brows raised. Funny kind of panic, organized, thorough, and with a towel. Sarah dabbed at her eyes with her napkin. Ronald, I'm so ashamed. Join the club, Sarah. Membership's booming. And then Derek, like every guilty man with no cards left to play, declared. The faucet was obviously defective. I barely touched it. Would you like me to play it again? I asked sweetly, maybe in slow motion. We can count exactly how many heroic wrenchings it took. Silence, thick enough to spread on toast. William's voice finally broke through. We need to discuss the situation very seriously, which is polite code for your disown before dessert. Derek snapped. Fine. Yes, I broke it. But can you blame me? Ronald's been swanning around all day like some bloody yacht club tycoon, making the rest of us feel small. Ah, there it was. The confession. I broke your things because my ego is smaller than a tea biscuit speech. Lindsay stared at him, horrified. You did this to hurt my father? To teach him a lesson? Yes, Derek said, mask on, teeth bared, about not pretending to be something he's not. I smiled for the first time all day. Finally, the idiot tells the truth. Well, Derek, I murmured, speaking of pretending to be something you're not. I think it's time we cleared up a few misconceptions. He leaned forward, trembling but try to play it cool. Look, Ronald, maybe I got carried away, but it's just a minor repair. On a rental boat. These things happen. A rental boat? I repeated softly. How very convenient for you. He brightened, actually brightened, as though this was his big comeback moment. Exactly. It's not like you can afford this. It's a weekend fantasy, Ronald. Playing millionaire. Honestly, it's sad. Lindsay winced. William shook his head. Sarah buried her face. And me? I just sat there, marveling at the poetic brilliance. Because Derek wasn't just digging his grave. He was ordering the headstone, arranging the flowers, and practicing his eulogy all at once. You're retired what? Plumber? Carpenter? Living off Social Security and playing pretend on boats you can't afford. Yes, Derek really said that. Out loud, with witnesses. The man has the survival instincts of a paper straw. Sarah gasped like she'd just discovered her pearls missing. William's face turned the shade of an undercooked beetroot. And Derek? Oh, he wasn't done yet. He gestured around a cabin with all the grace of a drunk estate agent. Guys like you don't belong on yachts. Fishing boats, maybe, or a pontoon if you save. Yes, because nothing screams class like a folding chair on a tin raft. The silence that followed was so absolute, even the waves outside stopped to listen. I stood slowly, savoring the moment, calm as a monk, smug as a cat in a creamery. Derek, I said, this is my yacht. And boom, for little words that hit harder than divorce papers at Christmas. His jaw open and shut like a malfunctioning animatronic. Lindsay clutched her chest like she'd just witnessed a murder on Coronation Street. William looked like someone had just tasered him with pure reality. My yacht, I repeated, bought in March. $2.8 million. Cash. I might as well have slapped him with a wet salmon. Derek went chalk white. The color of a man who's just realized his entire personality is built on quicksand. That's not possible, he croaked. Oh, it's possible, I said. Registered with the Coast Guard. Marina fees on my card. Insurance policy in my name. Would you like me to bring the paperwork? Or shall I carve it into your forehead for clarity? I let each fact hang there like little bombs. Then I twisted the knife. I purchased it as a gift. A gift? Lindsay's voice squeaked. Yes, for you and your husband. And there it was, the nuclear reveal. Derek had spent the day sabotaging and mocking the man who was literally about to make him a millionaire. You couldn't write irony this good. Lindsay gasped. Derek looked like he'd swallowed a light bulb. William muttered, $2.8 million, in disbelief like he was reciting the book of Revelation. I smiled thinly. Plus another $140,000 over the years. Graduate school, wedding, house down payment, a small fortune in emergencies. I keep records. Derek finally croaked. We had no idea. No, I agreed. You had no idea the plumber you mocked was about to hand you a yacht. You mocked the goose while it was waddling over to give you golden eggs. Truly, Derek, a masterclass in strategy. Sarah teared up, whispering, Ronald, we're so sorry. But I wasn't looking at her. My eyes stayed locked on Derek, who looked like he was trying to solve a Sudoku with a hangover. I corrected gently, was planning to give you the yacht. The color drained from his face. Wait, you said was, that doesn't mean, we can fix this. Right now. Now that I understand the situation. Now that you understand? I repeated. Meaning, if you'd known I was rich, you'd behave like a civilized human being? He opened and closed his mouth like a dying cod. Lindsay stared at her hands, finally realizing her romantic choices were perhaps not Nobel Prize worthy. That's not what I meant, Derek stammered. Of course it's what you meant, William cut in, voice like acid. You decided your father-in-law needed teaching a lesson about his place. Didn't you? Sarah dabbed her eyes again. Ronald has been nothing but generous to this family. I know that now. Derek cried, in the sort of voice usually reserved for toddlers who've just been caught coloring on the walls. But we can fix this. I'll pay for the faucet. Hell, I'll redo the whole galley. The faucet's already repaired, I said calmly. Took 20 minutes. Marine fixtures are tougher than your ego, Derek. Then what's the problem? He pleaded. No harm, no foul, right? The problem, I said, turning slowly to face him, isn't the faucet. It's the fact that when you thought I was beneath you, you chose cruelty. That's not plumbing. That's character. Even Lindsay looked up then, eyes shiny. Dad, I know Derek was wrong, but what, sweetheart? I asked that I should overlook sabotage because he apologized after being caught, ignore years of disrespect because he suddenly found out I'm rich. Her silence was answer enough. The yacht remains mine, I said crisply. The gift is permanently withdrawn. Derek, gather your things and leave. You can't be serious. Derek spat. Over one stupid mistake. One stupid mistake. William thundered. You vandalized his yacht, mocked him all day, and now you're crying over a gift you didn't even know existed. Derek glanced around for allies, but even Lindsay couldn't meet his eyes. He was a man drowning, and the lifeboat had sailed. Fine, he snapped, standing like a sulky schoolboy. Come on, Lindsay, we're leaving. And she stood slowly torn in two, between her father, who had offered her the world, and her husband, who just tried to smash it apart with a faucet handle. Dad, No! I cut her off. You made your choice clear today. I hope the view from Team Derek is worth the ticket price. And that was that. Derek and Lindsay gathered their belongings like sulky teenagers sent home from summer camp and trudged towards the gangway. William hovered, cheeks still the color of embarrassment stew. Ronald, I can't tell you how ashamed I am of my son's behavior. If you'd rather Sarah and I leave as well. Absolutely not, I said firmly. You and Sarah have been delightful. A rare oasis of decency in this little hellscape. Stay, drink, pretend Derek never existed. It works wonders. Through the window, I watched him on the dock, Derek flapping his arms like a malfunctioning seagull, Lindsay trudging beside him in funereal silence. They looked so very small against the harbor. Small and appropriately pathetic. Sarah joined us, peering out like she was watching a soap opera she wasn't sure she wanted to admit enjoying. Do you think they'll be all right? She asked. Oh, Derek will land on his feet, I said. Men like him always do. They've got a talent for bouncing back, like bad pennies and food poisoning. As for Lindsay, I sighed. Well, she'll have to decide if she wants to spend her life with a man who sabotages taps for sport. A unique quality in a husband, but probably not one they highlight in premarital counseling. William, bless him, poured 3 glasses of wine with the gravitas of a priest administering last rites. To character, he said. To character, Sarah echoed. To finally being rid of Derek. I muttered, but clinked anyway. The sun dipped lower, painting the water in golds and ambers, the kind of poetic scene people put on motivational calendars. For the first time in years, I felt peace. Not because I'd sought revenge, but because Derek had managed to self-destruct so spectacularly. He saved me the trouble. Honestly, it was almost impressive. He destroyed his own inheritance with the same dedication. He destroyed that faucet. A man of consistency. At least, the brass compass on the shelf caught the evening light, pointing north as always. Dependable. Unlike certain sons-in-law who can't even handle basic plumbing without staging a Greek tragedy. And that's the end of it. If you enjoyed this little fiasco, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments whether Derek belongs in jail, therapy, or on a pontoon boat with a leaky motor. To hear the next tale of human absurdity, click on the box on the left. Go on. You've already made it this far.